Karen Barrett-Ayres, graphic designer and Doric enthusiast.
Hello.
That's kind of folk we like on Doric TV, full of colour, vim and vigour. Can you tell us a wee bit about yourself, your graphic design background and your interest in Doric?
So I'm a graphic designer. I trained at Duncan O'Jordanston College of Art in Dundee, and when I graduated, moved to London. So I guess I had to tone down my Scottish accent a little bit to be understood. So I think that I've lost a little bit of my Doric twang. But when I first actually started at primary school, I had an Australian accent because I had lived in Papua New Guinea. And one of the first things that I remember is that somebody had come up to me in the playground and said, "Hiya, where'd you bide?" And I literally was totally bamboozled by them and couldn't understand a word they said. And I remember going home to my mum and saying, "Mum, they don't speak English in Aberdeen." And I think from that point forward, I've always had a fascination for Doric because it's the local dialect, but it can sometimes sound like a different language. So
it sure does, Karen. Well, we're quite excited, Karen, to have you today on Doric TV because I think it's the thought of using visual communication in presenting Doric, i.e. graphic design. Tell us a wee bit about that, Karen.
So the very first thing that I think I designed in Doric was this publication, which is a Doric Dictionary for Robert Gordon University. So at the time I was asked to come up with a gift for business travellers to give out to offshore Europe. And I decided to have a think, and I thought, well, what would be a nice local gift that would resonate with the local community? And so I designed this Doric dictionary. And I compiled it myself, and I wanted to keep it quite bite-sized and light-hearted, using graphics throughout, keeping it quite colourful, but quite light-hearted at the same time. And when it was released for offshore Europe, the phone rang off the hook with people that wanted to get their hands on a copy. And I was actually quite astounded by the interest that was generated by the document. And then I thought, oh, there's a real appetite here for creating something that's quite visually attractive using the Doric dialect. So I guess I spotted a little gap in the market and decided to go for it.
Yes, that's what we need to do in these times, is just to go for it. And using that passion and that drive and that enthusiasm and that little light that's within you, and just to go for it. We steeped in a culture here in the Northeast, obviously, as you can, Karen. But I think this new contemporary approach, I think that is just something that we can possibly run with. And you're like me, you like to think about the younger generation, Karen. And I was just thinking of the importance of the contemporary approach to engage with the younger generation. And we'll speak about your book for youngsters later. But what do you think about that, Karen?
I think it's really important to try and engage with the younger generation because in my mind, I associate Doric with being an older generation that speaks it. And so when I published my children's illustrated book, that was one of the reasons that I decided to do a children's book, was to try and engage with the younger generation and have them to learn Doric words, but in an engaging way. So I think it's really important to, Doric's part of our heritage and our culture, and I think we've all got a part to play in keeping it alive.
I think you're right there, Karen. You've hit the nail on the head there. We have got a part to play, because it is important that we keep abreast of our where we've been in the past and also looking into the future, and that is engaging with the youngsters. And we'll speak about that in a wee minute, but we were just thinking, Karen, and these thinking about these terrible, challenging times that have both fallen upon this year And we don't really want to dwell on that because, you know, it's all around us. It's in the newspapers. It's, you know, we just, sometimes you've got to have to tune out because it can be quite overpowering. But Karen, you cleverly compiled a set of Doric, I can't pronounce it. Would you like to tell? Come on. The posters for the
coronavirus posters.
That's it. Yes, yeah. That's it, Karen. Tell us a wee bit about that.
So on the 4th of May, I created a series of Doric coronavirus posters, which was in response to a brief that was sent out from United Nations, putting a call out for creatives to put on their thinking hats and to disseminate important public health information about coronavirus, but within local communities. And so I thought, well, what's the best way to try and engage with the Northeast? And the best way that I felt was to translate the Doric posters into translate the NHS information posters into Doric.
Oh.
And I think it was really successful. I was actually really surprised. So I posted it on my Facebook Bramble Graphics page, and it had 17,000 shares and it reached 1.4 million people.
I didn't think there was as many folk as that in a boot, Karen.
So I guess you can say, excuse the pun, it went viral.
That is just incredible, Karen. I mean, when you told me about that initially, I just thought, wow. I mean, what an important thing to do. You know, Karen, why do you think that it was necessary to do the posters in Doric?
I just think that at the time there was a lot of doom and gloom going around, and a lot of the information posters that were that I had seen in the press and in print, they were kind of washing over people's heads. You know, it was just, you know, to stay 2 meters apart, wash your hands, stay at home, and I just felt like it needed to have be put a new spin on it for the Northeast. So just something that was also would make a talking point and get people speaking about the important message. So yeah,
I think, and sometimes it hits home more, Karen, if you see it in your own dialect and you can connect with it better and you think this is real. This is real. Yeah. And visuals make it real. Because I think we're
the visual aspect helped as well. I think a lot of people shared it because it was very specific to the Northeast, and NHS Grampian commended it and shared it. So I was quite pleased that they had endorsed it as well.
Have you got an example of the poster there, Karen, at hand?
I've actually got the Evening Express printed an article about the posters. So what I did was I went onto the Scottish Government website and then try to do just a direct translation of because the important thing was that the information had to be factually correct as well. So I just tried to put a Doric spin on it.
Well, that you have to be commended, Karen. A youngster like yourself having that thought behind it and to be such a powerful message and to get to so many folk, and hopefully that they've engaged in it and kept it in here to remind us all the importance of keeping safe and what we need to do to keep safe and to keep our loved ones safe as well. So honestly, Karen, I brought a tear to my eye when I heard about that, Karen. So just keep on doing what you're doing, Karen.
Thank you.
Karen, I know. You know what I was thinking? You know, we see a lot of Gaelic signs in this area. You know, I live near Peterhead and I go down to Peterhead and I'll see something across like a government office and it'll be, and it's fine. But the language is in Gaelic, which is fine. But what did you think, Karen, about seeing signs here in Doric?
I think that would be an interesting idea, to have the dual, because people are bilingual, let's face it. I also think it would be a tourist attraction as well. I think the tourists would find it very interesting, and maybe it would be a talking point from that point of view as well. So yeah, I think it's a great idea.
I do, and I think Gaelic is great. And I mean, we're so lucky to be in a country where, there are Gaelic speakers, but, let's not forget about us Doric speakers. It's okay, it's maybe not entirely a language, but it's a great dialect, and it's why we spit from the back of our throat. It's quite unique. It's quite unique. And I think to have that signage up, as you say, and I never actually thought of that, Karen, for tourists. Of course, it would be a great tourist attraction. So if there's anybody listening out there, let's get some Doric signs up. Right. Oh, Karen, we'll set the world tonight. Karen, you recently published a Doric children's book. Can you tell us a wee bit about that, Karen? Yeah, you got it in the background.
Yeah, I've actually got, this is Flora the Foggy Bummer. And Flora the Foggy Bummer is a character that I created for children. And then I asked a friend of mine, an artist called Miss E, to make the character for me. So this is Flora the Foggy Bummer. So my book's called Flora the Foggy Bummer Meets the Fusty McNasties. And the inspiration for the book was actually my dad used to, when I would be maybe up at the top of Benahee and there would be some rubbish lying around, he would say, "Oh, look, the Fusty McNasties have been here." And so in my head, I imagined this family of litter bugs who went about scattering rubbish about, and I thought that they were nasty people. So I think the inspiration came from that, from like a childhood story that my dad used to tell me. But also I wanted to create a character that would be attractive to the younger generation. And I thought foggy bummer is such a great descriptive word for a bumblebee. And also I wanted to convey, and from an educational point of view, about the fact that bees are in decline, and wanted children to plant wildflowers in their garden to attract bees into their garden. So I thought I would tie it all together in this story.
Now I've read the book, and I was not only taken by your Doric words and how you engage with the youngsters and how they would listen and read your words, but also the images. Now, your images as a graphic designer, you're spot on, Karen. You are spot on. These images, you know, when you're a youngster, you look at the pictures, don't you? You look at the pictures first, and then you read the words. You're spot on, and the characters bring alive the Doricness about it. So again, well done, you, Karen. Flora, the foggy bummer, and as a keen walker myself, I go out many different places and outdoors, and the litter that you see, Karen, and you're just so disheartened. Your message is great, because this is who we need to target: the youngsters and parents of the youngsters. Keep our country tidy. Pick up your litter. So there is a great message there. You're always thinking not just about one thing, specific aspect. You're thinking about a whole lot of aspects, Karen, and that's just, I think that's great. Karen,
there's a little glossary at the back. So it was my intention that it would be used as maybe an educational tool as well for learning the words in Doric. So it's written in Doric verse, but there's a translation at the back if you get stuck.
Karen, can you read a wee bit out your book, perhaps, Karen? Could you read just a bit?
Yeah, okay. I'll read you just the first bit. Flora the foggy bummer was nae ordinary bee. She lived on the banks of the River Dee. If you threatened her hame or made her see read, she'd clock soon enough you were up to nae greed. She'd magically shift-shaped you into ony crater. Lessons learnt, you'd change back sooner or later. She just had to spick a Doric ditty, burl around and wait a wee bitty. You'd be morphed into whatever Flora thought best, and you'd only change back if you passed Flora's test. Now, Flora loved Brodie Woods for she bade, but had a notion to travel, so she said. The morn I'll check out my bug hotel, Friends and family came over to wish her well. And then it goes on a journey and tells the story about her travelling around the different locations in the northeast, including Benahee and Fitty. So there you go.
Karen, do you remember that programme long ago? It was called Watch with Mother. I think before your time. Oh well, but that's
I've heard of it. Yes,
yeah.
I've heard
well,
of
I
it.
just Watch with Mother. You know what came to mind, Karen, as I heard you reading there? I could just see it on Doric TV. It's not Watch with Mother, it's Watch with Karen. You're a storyteller. You not only create visuals, but you create a story, but you can also tell it. That is 3 things there, Karen. Anyway, here we go. Doric TV. Watch with Karen.
Maybe I could a children's bedtime storytelling session. That would be good.
That is it. That is it. Remember, you thought about it first on Doric TV. We've commissioned you, Karen. Karen, why do you think it's important for youngsters to be made aware and to get excited about our Doric dialect and culture?
I just think that for me, like I say, I think a lot of Doric speakers maybe hear Doric words from their grandparents. And I think that for me, I'd like for the Doric language to continue to exist in the future. So I think by creating some children's books, and I've got some other ideas for books as well in the future that are maybe to do with a family called the Peely Wallies. And yeah, I think it's really important to engage with the local community about keeping our culture and heritage alive.
And that's what our website, we set up, myself and Gordon, the Doric Future website. And it was just to do that, just amongst a lot of other people out there, Karen, unlike yourself, who are so engaging in trying to keep our dialect and culture alive. Karen, what do you think that actually that Doric means to youngsters today? What do you think it means to them? If you speak about Doric to youngsters, what do you think conjures up in their little heads?
I think that recently I did a Christmas market where I was advertising my new book at the art gallery, and I had quite a few youngsters that came in. And I've got quite a lot of little merchandise with Doric words on the, coasters and cards and things like that. So I was actually asking them, do you know any Doric, and do you know what these cards mean? And a lot of them actually said no, which surprised me. So, I think that it might be more prevalent out in places out in the sticks, but maybe not so much in the city. So I think that they have actually initiated Doric to try and incorporate it into the curriculum, into the school curriculum. And I think there is a drive to encourage youngsters to learn Doric. So hopefully Aberdeen City Council and Aberdeen Shire will increase that and put more funding towards that.
We hope so, Karen. We hope so, because obviously Aberdeenshire has changed drastically over the last 40 years since since oil came into the North Sea and the production of it. And prevalently we've been farmers and fishers and things in Atween. And there has been the backbone of the culture. And it's exciting because we live in a new culture. An age where there is a lot of diversity. It's brought a lot of employment, and it's brought a lot of vibrance into Aberdeenshire. And I think this is where maybe we've got we're in the danger of forgetting or losing the crux of who we are and who we've been in the past, Karen. And it's certainly a thing that spurs a lot of people on. And and it is about trying to get this message to the youngsters. This is what we look like just now, but we haven't always looked like us. This is who we've been in the past, and the relevance it can be to them, the culture, the background, and their parents and their grandparents, and what they did in days gone by in this area. Karen, what does Doric, what does it mean to you?
Doric, I actually find Doric quite a vibrant, comedic language for me. I enjoy the comedy elements of Doric. So my grandfather, Reg Barrett-Ayres, he was the head of music at Aberdeen University, and he was involved heavily in producing the student shows. And he worked with Scotland the What and Buff Hardy and people like that. So I think for me, you know, I find that I enjoy the linguistics of Doric and how it sounds, but also I personally find it quite a funny language. When you hear the English translation of a Doric phrase, it's quite bland and boring, but I think it's very expressive. And so I think I find it fascinating.
Karen, I know, and it's just sad to think that Buff passed away just recently. The last of the Scotland of What, that was a generation and an era that, you know, when I was a bairn, we used to sit and listen to the records, you know, because there wasn't so much TV in that days. I sound like I'm ancient. But, you know, that was our entertainment. We used to sit and listen to Scotland of What. I've got a brother, Duncan. I must give Duncan a plug. He could recite the Scotland of What sketches backwards and frontwards. He knew every word of that lads they created, and he used to recite it to us after we listened to the records, and it was entertainment to us. Karen, we didn't have little computers, we didn't have mobile phones, we didn't have anything. We sat in a house, 5 bairns, mother, father, dog, cat and budgies and whatnot, and we made our own entertainment, you know, and that was our entertainment in that younger days, was listening to Scotland of What. So it just brings a bit of a sore heart to, you know, knowing that Buff is no longer here. And, you know, but there is, I think, their legacy, we must carry on, and folk like Scotland of What's legacy, they were humanists, they were characters, and they're just heartwarming. And we have to carry that light on for them. And everybody else that's watching, we have to carry that light on, that spark going for the Doric. Karen, it's been a pleasure for you to come on to Doric TV and to impart just who you are and your excitement about Doric and what you are creating visually, you know, across the board, you know, and just keep on doing what you're doing, Karen. And we do hope that you'll be able to engage somehow and, you know, more with Doric TV. And I think it's just up to us to wish Abdi out there a quiet, contemplative, festive period. It wouldn't be the usual. Remembering your signs for this time, Karen, it's about keeping safe and keeping those round about us safe. And I'll leave the last word to you, Karen.
Just like to say that I very much appreciate the time that you've taken to interview me and give me an opportunity to speak about my passion for and enthusiasm for Doric. So thank you very much.